Today on the show, our guest is Ryan Overcash from Costello Real Estate and Investments in the Raleigh-Durham area, North Carolina. Let me tell you more about Ryan. Now, Ryan is a 30-year-old realtor. By the way, this is part of our Rising Star series. So Ryan is absolutely a rising star. You're going to find out why right now. So Ryan's 30-year-old realtor in the Raleigh-Durham market in North Carolina and has been full-time for a little over 1 year after working part-time in real estate for 2.5 years. He grew up a very anxious but competitive kid that played just about every sport you can think of, but ended up attending North Carolina State University, where he for college, where he received a bachelor's and master's in biology. Despite spending his first 5 years working in pharmaceuticals, he was always interested in real estate and knew that one day would have a career in real estate. In his first year full time, he closed over $5 million in sales, amazing, and has already closed $5.5 million in 2024, and we're about 2/3 of the way through the year. So his goal is to end the year with $8 million. I suspect he'll do even better. He leverages his network from past jobs and career to grow his business now, and almost solely focuses on his sphere of influence and social media, Facebook and Instagram. Speaking of that, follow Ryan on Facebook and Instagram. On Instagram, he is Cash Rules Cash Rules Raleigh. I'm going to have a link to that in the show notes. Again, his last name's Overcash, Cash Rules Raleigh, and search for him on Facebook, Ryan Overcash. Again, we'll have a link to that in the show notes. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, DJ. Happy to be here. I don't have all the answers, but happy to discuss what I've been doing for the
Well,
last
I was
year.
hoping you had all the answers because you're going to be my very last podcast episode of all time. I was like, I finally got the guy with all the answers at 30 years old. But you do have some of the answers because you're doing a lot of things that are really resulting in a pretty impressive start to this long career. And I think most agents don't have a great first year. And I know that you were also doing it part-time before, but let's start at the very beginning. Let's talk about, you went to college. Was it, you were in biology. Did you want to sort of, go into medicine? I know you ended up in pharmaceuticals. I figure everyone I know who's a doctor started in biology or one of those disciplines. Just curious on what your by the way, that was my original path. And about a year in, I was like, oh, I do not have the intelligence for to do organic chem and do all of that. So anyway, I'd love to hear your story.
Yeah, funny enough, I guess I didn't really know what I was going to do going into college, but I had always had this idea of becoming a dentist, which obviously I'm not a dentist now. But I still went through biology undergrad for 4 years, got that degree, still had no clue what I was going to do, bet the farm that I would get into this one graduate program at NC State. And luckily I did. After I graduated too, that I found out I got into it. So did that for 2 years. And that's kind of the journey through college. And obviously a lot happened in between there, but I got into real estate during college as well, or got interested in it, I will say.
So you got your license out of college? You were still working in pharmaceuticals at that time?
Yes. So I think if I recall dates correctly, I bought my house in 2020, and which was a crazy time to actually be buying a house. Definitely
So
the
not
first
an
time home
easy
buyer.
time, by the way. I bought mine in 2022 as well, so I can appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was kind of lucky. I was in like a time frame where no one was looking at houses
Me too.
actually,
I
because
had
it
the
was
same exact situation.
yeah. So very fortunate there, but I really just liked the process. And considering I had already an interest in real estate investing, I was like, what's the worst that can happen if I just go get my license? So I think February 2021 is when I officially got the license, but started the process before that, and did it for 2.5 years part-time, and really was just focused on helping a friend here and there that was interested. Because I don't know, I found it hard to sell myself while I was part-time because I didn't want to seem distracted from my full-time job. So
Yeah, it's probably a struggle that a lot of we'll call dual career agents have, which is figuring out how to sort of service the client, because clients don't really want part-time service, of course, but And we all know that part-time realtors are really full-time realtors anyway. They
Right.
just also have another job on top of that. So I know it is not an easy path. But was the dream always to sort of move into real estate as a realtor full-time, or was that just something that naturally happened when you started getting more business?
It ebbed and flowed. I had weeks where I was like, I'm ready to quit my job and go do real estate full time. And then I had weeks where I'm like, I think I'm going to keep doing this pharma thing for another few years and see what happens. I never really thought it would look like what it does now. So I would say no, that I thought I would be more interested in the investing side and do more of that early on, which didn't happen. Life happens a little bit, but
Sure.
um, no, I really did not even plan to go full time. And we had some changes happen at my last job, and I was just, those were kind of the nail in the coffin, and I was ready to make that jump. And in 2023, I had started to see my real estate business pick up even part time, and I was like, maybe that's a sign that I have some legs behind this, and I can make that jump. And I had just paid off my student loans in early 2023 as well, which helped out.
Sure. That's amazing. There's a couple things about your story that I think a lot of our listeners can relate to. Number one, the dual career to single career path, and not even always knowing that that's exactly what you wanted, and then having times where you knew it was what you wanted, but then maybe not. And you know, everybody in their early part of their life as they start working as an adult, I think, goes through versions of this, whatever industry they're in. It's like, am I in the right industry? My training was psychology, and I never did anything in psychology specifically. I would have had to go to law school, or sorry, not law school. I would have had to gone to graduate school, and I'll maybe even go get a PhD. And I didn't do any of those things. And here I am now in real estate, which is something that I never would have expected or guessed. And if you would have asked me, I would have been like, I don't know anything about real estate. Back when I was starting in my 20s and early 30s, even. So it's funny how life can kind of move us and push us into positions that maybe we didn't anticipate, but we can thrive in. And you are certainly thriving. And I get jealous seeing some of, not jealous for me, but just jealous for all of the agents I know who are listening, who go, gosh, he's really doing well in his second year. But in your first year, and again, we should remember you were doing this part time for 2.5 years. But when you really went into it full time, that's when, sure, bills have to be paid, and
Yeah.
it's not easy to thread that needle, because of course we only get paid, and maybe this will change someday, but we only get paid now when the deal closes, of course, and that can be months and months. Even if you have a deal ready day one when you get your license, it's still going to be months away, most likely. So I would love to dive into my first question to you is about prospecting, because of course there's a great expression that I did not come up with. It's an old expression, but it seems to be fairly accurate, which is prospecting solves all problems. And again, I don't know if that's absolutely true, but it's pretty clear. It's pretty true, at least for a lot of us. So you have done really well with your marketing efforts. Again, you are probably more known to the people in your life as the biology, maybe the dentist guy that's going to be a dentist, or the pharma guy, or the consultant. You also did consulting. So all of these things are, probably you've done, just as much of as real estate, and yet you're having the successful year. And so I'd love to know when you decided to switch to real estate. My first question is, how did you go about figuring out the hardest part, which is where my client's going to come from?
Yeah. So I will say this: last October, which was 3 months after I had left my full time job, I was thinking I might have made the worst decision ever, because I did not have that many clients at that time. I had a few, I think, closings towards the end of the year, which helped me kind of get through that. And really, my first year goal was to just be able to pay my bills. Um, that would have been a great year. And luckily, I was able to do that. But I thought about how can I get clients early on, even before I had left my job. And one thing I had right in front of me was my career in pharmaceuticals. And luckily, that field is a lot of very affluent, fairly well off people that can buy and sell homes. So that is really like the first network I approached, um, to get out there and find clients. And that's, I wish I actually wish I had better numbers now that I'm on here, but that's probably been half of my sales over the last year, is people from past jobs that I worked with. and I think they enjoyed getting to work with me in kind of a different world than what we did before.
Was there any hesitation? And I'm not suggesting that you should have had this hesitation. I'm just speaking for a percentage of the audience that may have this hesitation. So they leave one career, they go into another one, they go back to the people in that original career, like you did, said, "Hey, by the way, I do this other thing now." Um, I know there can be hesitation going, but I'm brand new in this other thing. Are are people going to want to work with me because I'm new? Did that, and you're a young guy too, that also could potentially create an it's probably an invisible obstacle but can feel like a real one. So I'm curious about, did you have some of those fears or concerns, or how did you condition some of these past colleagues and friends that like, or is it just not an issue at all?
I haven't had the issue come up too much, but one thing that I think helped is I was at least half competent in my jobs. So the people generally liked working with
That's
me,
a great point.
which
He
helped.
was good at the last job, he's got to be good at this too.
And
That's actually a really important point. I love that.
yeah, and I think a lot of people told me to do this early and saw this coming ahead of time because they knew I wasn't as fulfilled in my job, even though I, did my thing at work and was a great teammate and tried to help people out at work. But they knew this change was coming and knew I would be much more excited about working in real estate than maybe some of the past things I've done. Because I think that energy is reflected is reflected when I go work with them in real estate. Like I really enjoy doing this. I care about the details, the process, doing the hard work to, you know, maximize an outcome for them. So I haven't had too much pushback about being new to the industry. I've
Sure.
definitely I've sold some higher end homes, which was a little scary because you kind of think you're going to be put on this. There's almost like a higher level expectation from a lot of those clients. And
Sure.
recently, I had a confidence booster because I knocked one out the park. And these are two people I worked with that are very smart, very detailed, very diligent, expect almost perfection, and it went amazing. So that definitely gave me some confidence.
I think too is that's earned confidence, because it wasn't like, oh, it just kind of went my way and like, thank goodness, and maybe it did to some degree go your way, that transaction, but it also, these are demanding clients, they demand an educated, competent agent. And being a new agent, you're only well, you're not so new, but you're newish, and you can only be so competent when you're newish. And yet I think it raises someone's game. They either rise to the occasion, which you clearly did, or they fall apart and it falls apart. And I love that it helped. Probably, maybe they even helped you raise your game a little because they were so demanding. And I love that. So I'm a big fan. It's like, you. I'm a tennis player, and you always want to play with better people than you. You don't want to play with anybody less, because it really drags down my game if I play with somebody who's not
Right.
as good as me. So I sort of like that, like the idea of having clients that are a little tricky, but in a good way. I think probably, did nothing but help, but also huge confidence boost. Like, man, I could do this. And not
Oh,
only can I
certainly.
do these higher end listings, these are people who might say, hey, we got this young guy who just did a great job for us. And, they're probably hopefully spreading the word around town.
Yeah, and people probably think I'm a little psycho for this, but I love negotiating too, which it's something I tell clients that I look forward to in these transactions. And a lot of people love to hear that because it's easy as a real estate agent just to kind of accept what you're given.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely being early on in my career, people probably don't expect me to enjoy that piece of it as much. But that's actually the one thing I probably look most forward to. Um, yeah.
I think that's a really great skill to have. Because, and by the way, we should make I'm going to give a couple plugs right now. One is the certified negotiation expert, CNE, which is one that is, I think you can get through NAR, or certainly you can Google it. I know it is a good certification, because when you're working with clients and they go, why should I be paying you? Hey, by the way, I'm a certified negotiation expert. I know how to get you either the lowest price or the highest price, for your property, for the property you want. So I am a huge fan of that. The other thing I'd encourage everyone to check out is a book called Never Split the Difference. It's a negotiation book by an FBI hostage negotiator, and it's awesome. And it will have you negotiating everything in your life, from your utility bills to real estate. And again, it's what's interesting, Ryan, about what you said is and again, I'm kind of hammering this a little hard, but I just think it's such a good differentiator is I really love, and it's true for you, I really love negotiating. Now, if I think about it, most people that I know, including myself, do not like to negotiate. I'm way too concerned with people liking me. So as a result, I don't want to negotiate with them because then that threatens maybe they won't like me if I offer something. I'm not a practicing realtor, so I wouldn't be a very good one if that isn't clear by now. But I love it when someone else is willing to negotiate on my behalf, and there's a monetary value associated with that too. So I know, of course, we think, well, of course, real estate agents negotiate. I don't think most real estate agents talk about the negotiation in advance at the beginning, being like, by the way, this is what I really love to do. I want to get you the very best. I think that comes through in your presentation, and your face kind of lit up when you said it. And also, it's really just a very valuable skill. So I really very much appreciate that. I did want to go one step back to you when you first got started with the old clients. Apologize for going back, but I do want to just ask one thing, because there's a lot of people who are listening who are like, well, I used to work at a job 5 years ago. And yes, it's been 5 years. A lot of people have forgotten, but I still have people that work there. How might you suggest to reach out to people, or how did you reach out to people that maybe you had worked with years before? And maybe, was how did you do that? Was it email? Was it phone, text, social media?
Yeah, I mean, it was really just, well, actually, I will say it was actually coworkers introducing or saying like, "Hey, this person we
Love
used to
that.
work with is thinking about buying a duplex. Could you, you should reach out to them." And I know that person, so I just send them a text like, "Hey, John told me you were thinking about doing this." I'm pretty straightforward and normal. Like, it's okay to just send that text and be pretty direct about it. Definitely if you feel that they already like you already.
Yeah.
You don't have to put on your sales hat in a text message. You can provide them the information you have and see where it goes. You know, early on, I was like, I don't want to annoy people. I don't want to do this and that. It's like people actually are looking forward to hearing from you, especially as we get older and we really probably have less communication with people from, our past lives. Like people look forward to seeing your name pop up on their phone and be like, oh, I haven't talked to him in forever.
100%. Yeah, it is absolutely true that communication is something that, despite technology making us appear more connected, we've all seen the studies. People are lonelier than ever, and any sort of reach out, whether it's, hey, I want to be your resource in case you ever want to buy or sell, or even just checking in with people, can
Right.
be life changing for that other person. Like, hey, this person cares about me. And so I think that's really smart. I do want to talk about social media because you are a younger person in real estate. And again, I don't want to say that because you're 30 years old. That's not young, but certainly in this industry that skews on the younger side. And people are always wondering, what are the younger people doing to get business on social media? Everybody's on social media, of course. And I'm curious about what your strategy is for maintaining communication or possibly finding new clients. How do you sort of think about leveraging your social media?
So I kind of have a rule for myself. I talk about real estate as little as I possibly can until it's
Love that.
something that's just bugging me so much that I have to say it because I think it's an interesting take or would be interesting for people to hear. I, you know, I'm sure you see on Instagram or Facebook or whatever you're on that like people, a lot of real estate agents, they'll kind of like say the same thing over and over again. And it's not really like unique or interesting for their personal audience. Whereas like I try to do stuff that will really connect with people. Like recently, I wrote an article about. I literally broke down how much I made my first year, what my
Love
percent
that.
commission was. I was transparent about my issues, everything, and people loved it. I mean, they don't get that take from their real estate agent. They don't get to see those details.
Nobody on social media shares how much they made. Like, not just real estate agents, nobody does that. And so think about, I'm talking to the audience, not Ryan. That is an incredibly courageous and vulnerable thing. And it really demonstrates an authenticity of, here's me stripped naked to a degree, right? Here's how I did. And by the way, not a super sexy number, I'm guessing, even though you had a great first year. Bottom line, not like the most impressive number to anyone, but hey, warts and all, like Oliver Cromwell said, paint me with warts and all. I love the idea of saying, this is the truth. Here's the truth. and people inherently are attracted to truth. They're inherently impressed by the courage to do that. It's like, oh, I couldn't do that. I wouldn't show my salary, or the amount of money I made on social media, because I'm way too afraid of, I don't know, something. Yeah, so I can appreciate that. So getting vulnerable is, and that is, ooh, that's a courageous one. Was that a tough one to send out, or were you just like, eh, who cares?
Honestly, like I'm pretty used. I've always just been interested in personal finance, and like I'm pretty used to talking about that stuff.
Yeah,
And maybe I can't do that forever if things go very well, um, but I don't know. I'm actually kind of happy to share it. Like it gives people. It also gives people encouragement. Like I was in a very good career, making good money, and I was almost able to make that my first year in real estate.
amazing.
And it's like I never thought that would happen, to be honest. And it just goes, if you bet on yourself, sometimes it works out. And I like to share that with people.
I went to see the director Kevin Smith from Clerks and Mallrats, and anyway, people probably know him. But anyway, he's been making movies forever. I saw him speak. We got to see a movie that he made before the public many years ago, and he was talking about this. He goes, "You should all bet on yourself." He goes, "It might not work out, but what if it does?" He was like, it can work out. And so this idea of betting on yourself is what you've done, and continue to do. So for social media, you are not talking about real estate all that often, unless it's like, I got to really talk about this. It's more about you as a person, or is it your personal life, or what are you sharing on social?
So I actually wrote down right here that I try to do like a balance of, I would say 25% real estate, 75% just hobbies, interesting stuff, things I'm working on. I'm actually, my truck's been in the shop, and I've been having to borrow cars and rent cars for 2 months. So I'm on my seventh car this year, and I
Oh my
post stuff
gosh.
like that. And it's like, people are like, why are you doing this? Or, people reach out, and it's a touch point that's not about real estate, but it keeps people connected with me. And like, makes them shows I'm a normal person, not
Yeah.
just someone who's trying to sell them all the time.
And by the way, like being a truck guy, that's a group right there. A truck guys are in
Yeah.
their own group, and they love other truck guys. By the way, if everyone doesn't know this, I just learned this a few months ago because I bought a car. I had no idea how much trucks were. I was like, oh my God. I had no clue that they were that expensive. I'm like, now I understand why people love their trucks. They're like a small fortune. But being like that, obviously that's something that you're into. Has any of your hobbies attracted other people who are like minded? I know you're new in your career. That might not have happened yet, but I'm curious.
Yeah, I'm a big golfer. I know you said you play tennis. I'm a tennis person as well. I don't play as much as I used to, but I'm a big golfer now. And I've probably met, I would guess 150 to 200 people over the last year just from
I'm a
Golf
course.
Network.
Yeah.
And that's like, I'll go play with a friend, and they'll bring two friends, and just, very organically meet people that way. And it actually has led to business as well. And it's like, not really even I'm planning on getting business from it. I just do something I enjoy with people, and organically those conversations come up, and I'm able to generate business that way. I wouldn't say it's a primary driver or anything right now, but it's
It's pretty
something.
cool though. It's pretty cool where you could do something that you enjoy like golf. And it just so happens that in golf, you meet strangers almost every time you play, unless you come with a foursome. You're going to get put on, with three other people most of the time. And what's great about it, it's kind of brilliantly built into the sport, is about 3 to 4 hours of talking. So
Right.
there's a lot of time. You might be riding in a cart with somebody or walking next to them, hole to hole. You feel I've been playing golf my whole life as well, not as into it as I am tennis, but you do feel connected to this stranger by the end. You're sort of like, oh, it's a bummer. It's not everyone's super fun, but the people that are you enjoy playing, by the end, you feel bonded to them, and it's almost like, oh, I'm never going to see that guy again, or whatever. So it really does lend itself well to real estate, because you feel connected to somebody. They feel like they know you by the end of this 18 holes, at least better than if they met you at a cocktail party for 5 minutes. And there's this like, we just did this thing together. We had this shared experience. We probably had a few laughs, or something funny happened during the game. And then again, they're going to need a realtor at some point, and maybe, just maybe, they would choose me. I really think that if anyone out there is thinking about golf, it's probably, again, you can be successful with any activity getting into it, but golf is a really good one because you're just
Yeah.
going to meet strangers all the time. And if you love it, you'll probably get a ton of business. So I'm so glad you said that. I have had very few people on the show that talk about golf. Maybe it's that realtors are oftentimes just so busy that they don't, once you get to a certain level, you just don't have time. But I'm glad you brought that up because it obviously is working for you too. Um, let's talk about the trusting the process, because I know that is something that can be very frustrating for agents. We all hear this: trust the process. Like, the path to success in real estate has been well defined by lots and lots of different people. You pick sort of your preferred method, and you're told to trust. How challenging was it for you to trust that it was going to work out? And how do you handle sort of the ups and downs? That's what I'd like to know.
Yeah, I'm fairly impatient. So it's like as soon as I feel like something's not going right or not working, I was either reaching out to people or going to a networking event or something like that. And honestly, you should be a little more consistent with it than I probably was, because I would get business and then those activities would die down a little bit, and then I would be a little slower. Then I'd pick those activities back up, and um, that's a kind of a stressful way to do things, to be honest. And it's naturally going to happen in this business. You're not always going to be perfect with your lead generation, but um, yeah, I mean, last year, I remember very vividly, October, I was like, where in the world am I going to get business from? And then I know this is cliche, but I went snowboarding in Big Sky in January. And while I was there, I got 4 houses under contract, which
Wow.
was like, okay, well, so maybe things aren't so bad right now. And, I continue to have a good year after that and build on momentum. And honestly, people, as I find more success, people see that more and more. I have more stuff to post on social media, more stuff to talk about, um, and just kept that rolling from there. But yeah, it's very hard early on. If people are starting out doing this, like, stick as much money to the side as possible. The only thing I spend money on that's a luxury, I would say, is my golfing activities. Other than that, I'm putting it into marketing stuff for my business, or client gifts, or hosting something for friends or something like that.
I love
Um,
that. You're investing in your business, and you could argue that golf is also to some degree a business expense, because certainly there's opportunity there that comes along with it, in addition to the super expensive clubs and course fees and all of that.
right.
Um, yeah, I just played with my father. We play once. Well, he plays all the time, but I play once a year with him, and I'm always shocked at how often, or how expensive golfing is. But I will say, people who are connected play golf.
Yep.
People who tend to have more disposable income because it's an expensive sport play golf. So for anyone looking, again, don't play it if you don't want to play it. But if you want to play it, it's not the worst sport. You'll probably get further playing golf with your real estate business than maybe even tennis. I mean, I love tennis, but tennis is a pretty small circle of people. And again, you could totally be the tennis agent, and that would be awesome too. But I just love, golf just seems to fill that niche. It's just, the downside is it's a 4 hour commitment every time.
Right.
But
Right.
for some people, they love that and live in that. I wanted to talk about something that really doesn't get enough play, which is sort of going the extra mile. I know there's a story for you, and every successful realtor has stories like this. But for those of you that are like, this is how you get people to become a raving fan. So, do you mind just sharing the quick story about how you steam cleaned carpets the day of before a house went live,
So
or
this
the
was
day of,
actually,
actually?
yeah, this was, yeah, I guess it was that day of. This was my first transaction after going full time, and there's a lot of interesting things to say about that transaction. It was a rough day every day of it, but um, yeah, I mean, I was new, I had time. I probably wouldn't do this now. Actually, I probably still would do it, but uh, the client we had to get their house like flipped and listed within 2 weeks. Basically, this was an investor, and I was not able to get the carpet cleaning people out there in time because other contractors didn't get out in time. So I went there. I I rented something from Lowe's Home Improvement, went out there at 2 a.m., got it done. And it's funny, I videos that stuff too.
I
So
was
it's
going
like
to
other
say, I
people
hope
see
you
it.
videoed that because that's an
Yeah, yeah,
amazing thing. Yeah.
yeah. And I mean, I do that stuff and I don't complain about it. I don't hold it over like people's heads like, oh, well, I did this for you. Like I just do it. And, the people appreciate it. That seller was very happy with me by the end of that transaction. It was a very challenging transaction, I will say. Um, so yeah, I mean, he was very happy with me. Like I do stuff like that. I'll take that extra trip to meet someone. I, show up to everything. If clients have events going on, even if a baby shower, which I probably have no business being at, I go like, it's small things like that. And, that's why I love real estate. Like there are a lot of smart people in real estate, but you do not have to be the smartest person to do it. It is really a game of effort. Like I'm not saying everyone's going to be the Ryan Serhant of the world, but if you just put in the effort, you will find a level of success that works for you. Um,
I interviewed basically the top team here in Chicago. And many years ago, I interviewed the head of that team, and I said, "Why do you think you're the most successful, team?" And he just looked at me dead in the eye, and he goes, "I outwork everybody." And he goes, "I'm not smarter." He goes, "I'm certainly not smarter." He goes, "But I'm willing to work more hours than the average than any other agent." He's like, "It's literally the only reason why." Now, again, work-life balance, yeah, he struggles with that, I don't know, but that's what he told me, and that seems about right. It's like effort plus hours usually ends up creating luck. I think luck is like this, this, you just drill, and eventually things kind of hopefully work out. And
yeah, yeah, and it is. I'm not like the hustle culture person either. I do work hard, but I do think people should take time for themselves and take care of themselves and have hobbies they enjoy and have stuff they do just for the fun of doing it. Like I'm going down to Pinehurst this Saturday to hang out with some friends, but on Sunday I'm going to be available for real estate activities probably every hour of that day.
sure.
I mean, that's how I prioritize things. Like, I'm going to spend time with friends. I'm going to have hobbies. People always, are like, when are you working? You're always on the golf course. And it's like, well, if you don't see a picture from me on the golf course, I am probably working. So, um, that's just how
And
it
you're
goes.
playing golf. You're playing golf. Pinehurst has what, like 8 courses, 9 courses? I forget what they
They
have. They have a
actually might
ton.
be building their 11th now. I'm
Oh
actually
my
only
gosh.
playing their par three course on Saturday, and we're just hanging out the rest of the
But
day there.
see,
But
that's a fun one. That's, I mean, I haven't played it, but I love par three course. Anyway, we're talking golf, and probably most of us are like, shut up about golf.
that's
But
okay.
I love that. But again, you're right. Yeah, and I think work life balance is everything. Yes, you're going to work probably more hours as a realtor than you would a traditional 9 to 5. You just are. It's just the way of the world. And the rewards are going to be much better. And you should still
Yep.
be mindful of your work life balance. So I love that you are not getting sucked into the hustle culture, because yes, it can work, but at what cost, right? So it's like one of those things that, yep, yeah, you can work 18 hours a day if you really want to. And then, you'll just have to be mindful of, how does that affect my health? How does it affect my energy? And how, and so I love that you've taken that into effect. I have a question for you, because you're still new to the business, but if you could go knowing everything you know now, or let's say it a different way, a brand new agent comes to you and says, "Wow, you had a great first year. What would you do if you were me starting out right now?" Just curious. So, like, think about maybe what you did, and maybe you would have even modified how you got started. So, I'm curious what you would do differently, or what you would say to somebody if they were starting out.
So I would say the first thing you should do is get in touch with every person in your network. People get distracted by I'm the first person to say do social media, but people get distracted by social media and online leads and all that kind of fancy stuff that is sold in the real estate world. In my mind, I was like, if the people I know already aren't going to use me, then I'm not going to be that successful at this probably. And they're the easiest people to sell right now. I don't even have to sell them. So I should reach out to them first. And I will say I was like fortunate to have a pretty good network already. So that might not be as easy for someone that's traveling or moving to a new city or something like that. But even then, like you could go to one networking event a week that it doesn't have to be real estate related. It can be just a hobby you enjoy. And you would probably get 2 to 3 deals if you did that every week for a year.
100%. I mean, even just joining like the Chamber of Commerce and going and doing the events of like, they're opening a new whatever Starbucks, so we're gonna go, be there at the celebration. Like even stuff like that, not real estate stuff necessarily, is really a fun way to get involved and just meet a bunch of fun people.
Yeah, and there's not a day that goes by that I don't text a friend or someone about, hey, let's go grab lunch next week. And it's
Yeah.
not like I have an intention to get anything out of that. I just want to go see them and see how things are going. Because maybe I'm lucky. I enjoy being in front of people. I don't enjoy the back end stuff of this job. It is just tedious work that keeps me up till 11 o'clock at night every night. But I do enjoy being with people. Like yesterday, I was in that event, very random. It was a bunch of guys that we kind of know each other on Twitter. We met at Raleigh Beer Garden uh, here, and none of us had ever met him before, and made a lot of great connections in person and put some faces to the avatars, and it was awesome. I mean, um, it can be that simple. I don't even really talk about real estate that much, as I said. Just do
Well,
stuff you enjoy.
I think when you connect with people and you demonstrate that you care about them and that you're interested in their lives, then there's this reciprocity that just sort of naturally occurs where they feel, more connected to you. And of course, when they have those needs, you don't have to tell them you're, a financial advisor or an insurance agent or a real estate agent or, an attorney. They know. They know.
Right.
And what they know more than that is, wow, this guy checks in on me once in a while, cares about me, asks me how I'm doing, takes me to lunch. Yeah, that's the good
Yeah.
news is too. I love that. I think it was Scott Peck wrote this book, but you don't have to read the book. But the title says it all. It's not crowded along the extra mile. Like it just isn't. I'd love it. It can be a little lonely on the extra mile because you'd be like, wow, nobody else is. Maybe not many people are going the extra mile, but it is certainly a road to success, and I love that that you are taking time out every day to just check in with somebody, see how they're doing, and then when they need you, they will find you. Like
Right.
that's kind of the brilliance of it.
Yeah. And now it's one thing I would add to that. If you're someone that needs structure behind that first week, just try to reach out to 20 people. I
Yeah.
mean, text 20 people. It doesn't have to be call. It doesn't have to be a DM. Like just text 20 people and see what's up and see if they want to grab lunch on a free day coming up. Um,
It,
it,
and I even have a little script I could say. So for anyone who's like, oh, I feel a little nervous, I feels a little contrived. Here's an easy way to sort of. This is just I was taught this is not my idea. Is call and this actually applies to a different industry, but I think it applies perfectly to real estate. Call up a friend and say, hey, I've started this new career. I would love to get your advice about something. I'm just working on my marketing plan, and I just wanted to ask your opinion. Just make sure I'm on the right track. Can I take you to lunch? I just need a few minutes, or I'll take you to, grab a coffee or whatever. I'll meet you at your office. And then you could go down and say, okay, hey, I really want to get your thoughts. This is kind of how I wanted to brand myself. Like you could even bring to the other person some, um, something that you might ask their opinion on, because it's like the most flattering thing in the world to ask somebody's opinion about something. And therefore you're not going, so do you need a realtor right now? Like you don't even
right.
have to do it. Be like, hey, I just wanted to like check in. You know me pretty well. I wanted to see, do you think this feels like me? And you could just ask them that. And it's so if anyone out there is a little nervous to contact people they know, do it that way. Be like, I was wondering if I could get your advice. And then you could say, hey, I really want to meet more people like you. Like you'd be my ideal client. So if you were me, how would I find more people like you? Is there like and then people will say, oh, we have a trade organization party that we do or come talk to my office. We have tons of people that need realtors, and maybe you bring lunch or something. Opportunities emerge sometimes does that happen from sometimes these conversations that you have with people, that even though it's not a real estate necessarily conversation, it ends up being an opportunity?
100%. So when I was in grad school, I had a good friend I took some classes with, and he moved on to Wisconsin to be a teacher at a college up there, like an entrepreneurship program. And I don't know why, but I had just randomly reached out to him one day just to see how things were going. We chatted, and a week later, he texted me like, "Hey, actually, my buddy in Raleigh I was friends with him because we're car guys, and he's thinking about selling his house, and he doesn't have the fondest opinion of real estate agents, and you're probably, and I don't either. And he was like, you're probably the only person that I would recommend to him. And I literally got a listing out of that this February, out of the blue, unexpected. Was not reaching out for any particular reason other than I just like the guy and want to see what he's up to
Yep.
because he's interesting. And I mean, it worked out that way. And literally, you meet one person, they might introduce you to that next person. That's the
Yeah.
person that changes your business or changes your life. It might not even be your best friend. It might be the person they introduce you to. Um, yeah. So, I mean, don't be scared to put yourself out there. And I will say early on, you're going to be inefficient at everything. It's going to feel like a grind. You're going to be like, what do I have to talk about? I haven't even done anything yet. Um, it still feels like that for me. It's like, I'm lucky to have a great start, but there's someone this year who has sold 30x more real estate than I have. So, you know, there's levels to this for everyone.
I wanted to bring up something that is very impressive to me about your business, as sort of newish as it is that you are also getting calls from other agents who say, "Hey, I don't really hyper focus in the area that Ryan, you specialize in. So I have this client. Maybe you can handle him. I'll take a referral fee, but I want you to handle it because you're going to do a better job." That doesn't happen to 30-year-olds, and it is happening to you. I want to talk about how are you playing nice in the sandbox with other agents, or playing so nice in the box that they're like, I'm going to send my referrals to this guy, because that is a very impressive tell about how well you're doing. Is if other agents are like, this is the guy, that's a very nice confidence booster. But can you talk us through a little bit about how that works?
Yeah, so maybe I can get a little specific on that. Like the triangle is a pretty big market, and top to bottom, or east to west, you're probably driving an hour and a half to 2 hours in a lot of cases. So it's like that agent on the outskirts might not want to do business in that other side of town. Um, but I've networked a lot through social media with other agents in the area, and then just organically met them through other events, or met them actually on Bigger Pockets forums or stuff like that. And even this past week, I had a buddy who was in St. Andrews golfing, and he was like, "Hey, he's had this client. They're really interested in these three homes. They want to see him this week because they're moving down from Massachusetts. I obviously can't help them right now. Do you think you could help them? It's actually better fit for your area, anyways." And I was like, "Of course." So it's really just being present. I answered quickly. I know the guy well. We talk about investing quite a bit. So it's, I mean, just being trustworthy, that you're going to take care of people, you're going to do the right thing by someone that they care about. And at the end of the day, like if he can have those clients back on the next transaction, I'm not a petty or a gatekeeping person. I'm going to serve them very well. If they want to work with me again in the future, fine. If they want to work with him, fine. But um, it is like, that is a great feeling for me because it shows that, other people believe in me.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the greatest compliment because, again, that agent, it's their client or someone that was referred to them, and they don't want their reputation tarnished by giving that lead over to somebody who maybe doesn't do a great job. And so to put that faith in a younger agent who's, it really is a real testament to how a professional you are with your clients. And I wanted to also ask a little bit about um, the changes that are happening with the NAR settlement. And I'm not interested in, talking about sort of what agents think about it because we all have our opinions. But have you, as a new agent, you're like thrown right in the middle of this, and you saw how it, of course, how it used to be, and now you're seeing how it's changing. Are you concerned, nervous? Do you feel prepared? We're 2 days at the time of us recording this. We are 2 days away from the changes going into effect, which basically changes, possible compensation. It's decoupled. We now, have to sort of secure our own our own buyer side, possibly. A commission. So I'm just curious on, if you're feeling nervous about that or if you feel prepared, how are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people will tell you they're not concerned. I am a change is concerning for me because things could happen overnight. They could happen in 6 months that really change like the fabric of this business and what I'm doing. And it's funny, like, of course, if this happens, I'm flush with more buyers than I've ever had in my life. And so I'm having to have those interesting conversations repeatedly. But honestly, I'm just building that skill set. And I'm telling my buyers, like, hey, I'm trying to get my commission paid for either by the seller or through a closing credit. But, this is the situation if I'm not able to do that. And to be honest, like, I will say, if we get to a situation where my commission is the difference between them not getting or not getting a house, we'll negotiate it. Like, that's fine. And we'll always negotiate it anyways. But uh, yeah, I'm not concerned about the messaging. I am concerned about the actual business changing. Um, because I think over time you could see commissions change. And will it be worth it to work with buyers in the same process that we have in the past? I don't know, because it could make going that extra mile a little harder.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, it could make it just inefficient enough or unprofitable enough to drive agents away from buyer representation. Or we, as an industry, do such a good job of educating buyers that the transition is a little bit, more smooth. But it's certainly going to be uncomfortable.
here, yeah,
And yeah,
yeah, I was going to say, like, people are going to want some type of representation. So there is value there. There is money to be made for agents there. That might change. Like, maybe people offer more of a limited service in the future that, maybe they're doing more like contract review, negotiation, scheduling, all that stuff. I could definitely see a world where it's easier for a buyer to get into a house without an agent. Obviously, that a lot would have to change in between now and that happening, but I could see a world where that happens or becomes a thing. Um, so the business model could just change. There's always, real estate is one of the biggest industries in the world, if not the biggest. There's always going to be opportunity within it. And like, the people who are top producers and successful say they're not worried because they'll just adapt to it. Um,
that is the best lesson I think I couldn't have said it better myself, because I will tell you, after interviewing hundreds and hundreds of top one percenters and agents in the country, some of the very, very top of the mountain people, and asking them this question, some of them got asked this question too. Not one of them was concerned. And it wasn't because, oh, my clients will just pay for it and I'm not worried about it. That wasn't the reason why. They said, I've adapted. I know how to present this. I know my numbers. I've practiced my pitch. And if it, I'll find out how it works. And a lot of them had been doing it anyway. A lot of
right.
buyers agents had been doing this for years. I had no idea. I did not know other agents were actually doing buyer representation and talking about commissions, saying you might come out of pocket for this. I met an agent who's been doing it for 8 years, a very successful agent. I was like, did you ever get pushback? He goes, never once. He goes, now I explained it. He goes, so when this change is coming, he's like, it's not a change for me. He goes, I go, have anyone ever had to pay out of pocket, a buyer? He goes, happens all the time. I go,
Yeah.
really? Do you get pushback? Not once. And I go, that's all I ever need to hear, because now I know the model works. And of course, lots of people have done this. But again, I think you're right. It's about pivoting, and it's about not focusing on, it's that old, is it the prayer of St. Francis? I'm not a Catholic guy, but I think it's the prayer of St. Francis, but it's like, or not, maybe not prayer. Anyway, whatever. It's the, oh no, it's a serenity prayer. Sorry. Serenity prayer.
Yeah.
See, I'm not a Catholic. So I did go to Catholic school, but I'm not Catholic. But it was, you can only change what you can change. Essentially is what that prayer says, is don't focus on what you can't change, because you're basically just throwing your fist into a wall. And that's exactly right. Because if we adapt, there's always opportunity. It's like, it's the same sort of opportunity comes in the most inopportune times too. Like,
Yeah.
if you're in the market and you're buying securities, stocks and bonds and things, you want them to go, you want to buy them at the low. You don't want to buy them when things are good, because obviously, for obvious reasons, but it doesn't feel good to buy something when it's
Yeah.
depressed. So getting
Yeah.
over some of those, so the pivoting doesn't have to feel good. It probably won't feel good. In fact, if it does feel good, you're probably not pivoting correctly. It probably should feel a little like icky and like, oh, I don't know if this is going to work, but you're just going to do it anyway, and you're going to get the result. But like you were saying, you and I don't like change. I don't like change either. It's scary to me. I like routine. I like the same. And yet I'm in an industry that changes all the time. So I appreciate that. Um, one last question for you is, what are the skills you're currently working on that, because you're still newish to the business, what would you like to get better at?
I would like to be, well, I have actually a couple items I would like to focus on moving forward here. I would like to get better at more targeted direct mail. So, intertwining my hobby and job, I would actually like to become almost like the North Carolina like golf course expert. Um,
Love it.
and like kind of tie that into real estate as well and try to like focus a lot of my marketing towards those types of neighborhoods and understanding them, understanding not just like the neighborhood but the golf experience there, and what it has to
Mm.
offer. So I'd like to focus more on that, and that in itself could be almost a separate business down the line.
That
But
is a I'm putting my I'm always wearing a marketing hat because that's my background. I've never heard of anybody doing this. And it's such a brilliant idea because golfers care about this kind of thing.
yes,
Golfers
yeah,
want to live near golf courses. They want to know how easy it is to get in. They want to understand the course experience. And you live in an area with lots of golf courses.
right.
So it's not like, well, we only have 5 courses. No, everybody knows them. No, there's probably 100 courses, within several hours of you. And you could be the guy making the YouTube videos of, I'm the real estate agent that's going to show you what it's like to play golf in this neighborhood and consider maybe even moving to this neighborhood. Here's the experience of living there, playing, or whatever. Oh, I could see that as its own YouTube channel.
Yeah, I had a moment one day while I was playing and I saw an advertisement for a real estate agent in that neighborhood. And not to be ageist or sexist or anything here, but it was a rather old lady who they
Sure.
had like as the agent for that golfing neighborhood. I'm like, the people that live here probably don't resonate with her and as much as they might with me, especially if it's a younger crowd there. Um, so like I was like, maybe there's an opportunity there to start doing more direct focus advertising these neighborhoods, and then also just playing 9 holes and videoing it and posting it up on my YouTube or social media and be like, and have a real understanding of the golf course and what holes are great to live on, what holes are you do want to stay away from, like stuff like that.
Yeah. And also too, like what to play next, right? Like
Right.
golfers are always like, hey, what's the next best course that I've never heard of? But you are, boy, I see a huge opportunity there. I fully expect in a year you'll have this sort of YouTube channel
Good to
with
hear. Yeah.
all of these golf, either living in a golf community and sort of figuring that out, or just, hey, golfers, I'm the real estate golfer. I'm going to show you, the best courses in the area, and we're going to walk them together. And I'm going to do so
Yeah.
much opportunity. The
And one
golfers
of
love watching stuff like that.
One other thing I recognized is it's very hard to find data for the different neighborhoods and like what they have to offer. So I was like, I could put together a list of like the 50 private courses in the Triangle of North Carolina, what initiation fees, what dues there
Oh,
are,
huge.
like what amenities each of those neighbors have, what's the median price point in that neighborhood, and almost do like probably like a Facebook ad or Google ad for that marketing material, and collect email addresses that way. That's an idea. Who knows if it'll work or not, but it's worth trying, in my opinion.
I love it. And again, we're listening to Ryan's creative process right now. And so I love that you're sharing that with our audience because you're having success. These are the kind of thoughts that we want to have, is how do I marry together something that's really interesting to me in a way that's useful to people in the community. And if you can do those two things and then put content out that specifically addresses, here's how to address these questions or concerns about people who are into this hobby, and also maybe are in this particular community. You're people search on YouTube for questions to answer, and that could be, is, hey, I'm thinking of joining a private club, what are the initiation costs? I would, yes, of course, because golfers too, anytime there's a private course, they're like, I wonder what it costs to join this club.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's a thought every golfer has had whenever they're playing a private course. They're like, this is pretty nice, I wonder what the costs. And it's not easy to get that information unless you ask somebody who's a member there, and they might not even know. But yeah. Oh, and how long does it take to become a member? That's another thing too. Like my sister
Yeah.
lives on a course in Florida where it's a 10-year wait period if she wants to do it. It's crazy, just
That's
insane.
crazy.
It's crazy. But she only knew that because she called them and said, how long is the wait list? Anyway, Ryan, you are doing some really great things. I hope to continue to follow you and watch your success as you continue to do more and more production. I want to thank Ryan on behalf of our audience for coming on, spending some time. I know you don't have a ton of time, but you spent it with us today. I appreciate that. Let's follow Ryan on Instagram, Cash Rules Raleigh. So we're going to have a link to that in the show notes. And also Ryan Overcash, you can find him on Facebook. He, by the way, he's the realtor that agents in his market are sending referrals over. So if you are outside of that market, or inside the market, and you're looking for an agent to refer business to, obviously he's doing something right. So he might be a great connection point for you, our listener. And by the way, people move out of Raleigh, Durham as well, and they go south sometimes, and maybe when they're retiring. Although you don't have to go too far south when you're in North Carolina. It's pretty beautiful everywhere. But people move out. So Ryan needs agents to refer to as well. So connect with him, let him know you appreciated him being on the show, and let's follow him on Instagram, because if I was an agent practicing right now, I just kind of take notes from what Ryan's doing on social media and probably do the same thing. So check out what Ryan's doing. Reach out to him. On behalf of Ryan and myself, we want to thank the audience for sticking around to the end. We appreciate you guys are the best. And thank you. Our podcast, no joke, this is the absolute truth, has had its most successful month ever last month, and this month we're on pace to do it. This after 7 years, we could not be happier that everyone seems to still enjoy the show. And please tell us how we can improve the show, because we could always do better as well. Also tell a friend about the show and leave us a review. Let us know what you think. And if there's an agent in your local market that you're like, I want to know what that person's doing, let us know who that person is. We will get them on the show. So Ryan, thank you so much. Appreciate you, and love to see your star rising, and we'll continue to watch it rise. And we'll also continue to watch you pivot as things change. So let's keep our eye on Ryan, and send him some business if you have people in that area. And also, he might be sending you business too. So Ryan, thank you so much. And we will see everybody on the next episode.
Thanks, DJ.